What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be addressing the weakness of the Coyote, which is the oil pump gears. Generally, the Coyote is a very strong motor. They handle a good amount of abuse, but their oil pump gears are known to fail, especially if you guys are running a lot like high RPMs, any sort of power adders, bouncing it off that rev limiter. They're known to fail, and if they do fail, they can send shrapnel through the entire motor and cause a catastrophic failure, which nobody wants, especially on a Coyote, because they're not a cheap engine. So it's something we want to avoid, and it's only a couple $100 to do the oil pump gears, and it's not very hard, which I'm going to show you guys in this video to do. So it's definitely recommended that you guys do this upgrade, especially if you guys are doing a Coyote swap. You already have the motor out. It's easy time to get to it. If you guys are new to this channel, we are swapping a Gen 1 Coyote into a 99 Mustang, along with a T56 6-speed from an 04 Cobra. So if you guys want to check that out, please hit that subscribe button and hit that bell notification, and stick with us. But let's get to this oil pump install. Now these are the oil pump gears I went with. I went with the MMR built oil pump gears. This is the package that they come in. Pretty good quality, it looks like. And then also ordered the timing chain sprocket for the crank to upgrade at the same time. So let's get to it. We also ordered this part number oil pump install kit from Ford Performance. Basically comes with the oil pan gasket and your timing chain cover gasket, the crank seal, and then a new crank pulley bolt. If you guys are doing this inside the car, you can get away with not having to get this oil pan gasket because you can leave the oil pan on. But for us, since we're doing a swap and we already have it on an engine stand, we're just gonna go ahead and pull the pan off and then replace all of this stuff. But yeah, that's the kit that we're going with. And then we also got a new dipstick, oil dipstick, because on shipment, this one actually broke. So we're gonna have to get that one out there when we get the valve covers off. But yeah, we got a new one of those from Ford. All right, so the first step was pulling the coil packs out and then getting the valve covers removed. Anybody that's curious of what the inside of a Coyote looks like, this is what it looks like. You got your VVT solenoids, cam phasers, timing chains. They have two main timing chains on each side, and then two smaller timing chains that operate the intake cams. But yeah, this is what they look like on the inside for anybody who hasn't been inside one. We already did most of the stuff on the front. If you guys are doing this in a car, obviously you're gonna have to remove all this stuff. In the last video I did, I had the crank pulley removal. So if you guys want to see that and see the tool that I used to get that off, check out that video. It's towards the end of it. And then we also removed the water pump in that video. But next up, we're going to be going through all of these bolts here on this timing cover and getting that popped off of there. guys, so we got the cover off. Another recommendation is you take the spark plugs out so that you guys can spin this freely. I just put the old crank pulley bolt back in with a little bit of a spacer here. You don't need much, but just a little bit to make sure that that bolt doesn't bottom out in the crank. I just use a little spacer here. And then you guys can turn this thing freely. You want to turn it until the keyway here is at the 12 o'clock position. And then you, on the passenger side, or the right side if it's inside of the car, this should be facing in the upwards direction. And then all of these on your intake side are neutral, so they're not pushing down any of those valves. And then we can go through and take off the tensioner, timing chain tensioner, and get these guides off and get this chain removed. And then we'll go back a little ways until this L here is in the straight up and down position. And then we can get this one removed. All right, guys, so we got the oil pump removed on all of the timing chains and guides and tensioners. So next up, we're gonna go through here, take out all of these Torx bits, and then we'll get this cover off, and then we can get to putting these new oil pump gears in here. This is the stock timing chain sprocket, or timing chain gear, whatever you wanna call it. Supposedly this one's an upgrade. I'm honestly not sure at what horsepower level, or if it's like an RPM dependent on what you need to upgrade this at, but I figured we'd just do it while we're in here and upgrade it so we don't ever have to worry about it. But I do know that these are weak links, so I'd say those are more important, but it doesn't hurt while you're in here to just replace this. But let's get to it. There's the billet oil pump gear. Compared to the old one, they look pretty similar. This one's got a couple grooves in it, I'm sure from just regular wear. But other than that, you can't really, other than the nice lettering and stuff, see too much of a difference. This is the new one. We're going to coat it in some assembly lube. I didn't go too crazy because this stuff is like wax. But I'm gonna get some of this stuff on there. Just for that first startup. And you want the lettering to face towards you. Just drop that in here. sure it spins freely. Put a little bit more of this down in there. Gosh. This stuff makes a mess. Maybe don't have to use a specific brand. You guys can just throw some oil in here if you'd rather. All right. Another gear. There. Compare that to the stock one. Pretty much identical, except for looks like these have a little bit more rounded holes here. I don't really know if that makes a difference for anything really, but throw a little bit of this on here. Clean up some of this excess here. Grab these flanges. Put a little bit here. We'll make sure we clean this thing up. All right, and throw this back on. And then you guys are going to torque these to 89 inch-pounds. Okay. And then you want to make sure that this still spins freely on the inside. It's hard to get a hold of once it's in there, but it still moves around freely, so it's all good. And that's it. All right, guys, so we got everything all timed up and ready to go. I'll go into a little bit of explanation here. So for your oil pump bolt Torx, you have a bolt here, a bolt there, one right there, and then one here. So there's 4 total bolts. That's number 1 right there, number 2, number 3, and then number 4. So for bolt number 1, you're going to do an initial torque of 89 inch-pounds. Bolt number 2, you're going to do 18 foot-pounds. Bolt number 3, again 89 inch-pounds. It's the same one as the first one. And then the 4th bolt here is 177 inch-pounds. And then in your second pass, for bolt number 1, you're going to do an additional 45 degrees. Bolt number 2, an additional 75 degrees. Bolt number 3, an additional 45 degrees. And then bolt number 4, an additional 60 degrees. And I'm not sure, this is for Gen 1s. I'm not sure if Gen 2s are different. I haven't looked into it. But if you have like a Gen 2 or a Gen 3, I would look into see if those torque specs are exactly the same for you guys. I'm not 100% sure. This is a Gen 1 though. And then again, the timing sequence on a Gen 1 is different than a Gen 2 and Gen 3. So you're gonna want to get the keyway at the 12 o'clock position. And then when this is facing, so basically you're gonna spin it until this is at the 12 o'clock position, and then your passenger side head, the R on this cam phaser is facing upwards, and then the L is almost facing upwards. And then you can do this chain, take your tensioner off, and then take your guide off and pull this chain off. And then you're gonna go counterclockwise to about 9 o'clock position. And then this L will face into the 12 o'clock position. And then you guys can take this tensioner off, the guides, and then the chain. Do what you need to do with the oil pump. And then when you go back together with it, you're going to put this one on first because this L will still be facing up. Line up the dot here with the colored chain link, and then the dot on the back here with this little indentation on your crank timing gear. And then once you get that on, you can do your guide and then your tensioner. And then you're gonna go back to, clockwise to the 12 o'clock position. And then this one will go back on with the colored link on the dot. And the colored link here lined up with this indentation. So both those colored links are lined up with this indentation. And both those are lined up. So that is how you time, at least for your main timing chains. I'm not gonna go into the process for timing the 2 cams together on each side, but that is at least for if you're doing the oil pump. And then I forgot to mention that the bolts for your timing chain guides and your tensioners on both sides are 89 inch-pounds. All right, guys, so we got the oil pan back on, got the pickup tube all put back in, brand new gaskets. Now we're just gonna go through, throw RTV on every single one of these seams between like the head and the block. And when we do the valve covers, we'll be putting some up here also for that seam. But then we're gonna also shove some down here for this seam. And then, yeah, like I said, every single one where the head meets the block. And just throw a little bit of RTV, and then we'll throw the timing cover on. All right, guys, so that's gonna end out this video. Again, if you guys wanna see this Coyote go into that new Edge Mustang, please hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned, stick with us. And if you guys are liking this content, please give it a like. But I will catch you guys in the next video.